This is the second podcast on simplifying algebraic equations or expressions, and we're going to look at simplifying when multiplication is involved. And you may have done some indices before, so know some index laws, but if you haven't, then it doesn't really matter. But so when we're simplifying algebraic expression which are multiplied together, all numbers and terms are multiplied. So when we're simplifying x times x times x, it actually becomes x cubed, because x times x is x squared, and then times x again is going to be x cubed. Alright? When we do for question 2 and we're multiplying, you've got to be careful that you're not going to get too confused or muddled up thinking that it's like as if it's an addition. If this was addition like we had, and we had 4x times, or add a y, add a 12x, add a p squared or something like that, we would only be able to add the x's with the x's, okay, and there'd be nothing else we could do. Multiplication is much different to that. So in our multiplication, what we are doing is we are multiplying everything together. But the first thing we do is we multiply the numbers together. So 4 and 12 is going to be 48. Now I look at x times x. Okay, now this is, while it's not just grouping the like terms, I'm still doing it in an order. So I go x times x gives me x squared, so I've done that and that. And then I say times by y, so that's times by y. So I've done the times by y, and I just write it like that, because when there's no gap, where there's nothing there that actually means a times, but don't write it in anymore. So we're not writing in that times sign, so it's just times y. So 48x squared y makes 48 times x squared times y. And then our last thing is the times p squared, so we go times p squared, but to simplify it we don't write in any multiplication signs. So 48 x squared y p squared means 48 times x squared times y times p squared. Alright? Now again, start with the numbers. The numbers times the numbers first. So 3 4s are 12. Then m times m is m squared, times m again is m cubed, times m again is m to the power of 4. So all the m's are going to be multiplied together to give m to the power of 4, and 3 4s are 12. Now let's multiply our numbers again. What's negative 3 times negative 8 is, of negative times a negative is a positive. 3 8s are 24. 24 times 2 is 48. Now r squared, and we're going to multiply that by r. So r squared times r is r cubed, and then I've got the m, which is still hasn't had anything, and it's got nothing that's going to change it to a power, so it stays at m. Alright, now again, numbers all together first of all. So negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6, and 6 times negative 2 is going to be negative 12. P times p squared. P times p squared is p to the power of 3. Okay, so that's how you should be doing it. You should be looking at them in a systematic way, multiplying your numbers by your numbers. Multiply out the p's by the p's to change the power, or whatever it is. If there's any variables, any letters the same, multiply them out together first of all, and then anything remaining. Right, now again, we've got 10 questions here, and on these 10 questions I want you to write them out in full and then pause it now, write them out, pause it. When you've finished, you've had a go at all of them, then have a look at the answers. Okay, hopefully you've had a good look at and you've had a go at all of these, and here is the answers for you. So if I look at number 1, 15r divided by 5. Now this is a division. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it as a fraction, 15r over 5. Now, like we did with the multiplication, you can do 5 into 15, it's top divided by the bottom, which equals 3, and you're just going to be left with r. So your final answer here is going to be 3r. 8p divided by p, well that's going to, I'm going to write it again as a fraction, top divided by the bottom. P goes into p, alright, and leaves you with 1, and if it leaves you with 1, multiplying by 1 doesn't change it, so you're just going to be left with 8. Hopefully you get used to this cancelling of things top and bottom of the expressions which are the same. Number 3 is already as a fraction for you, and again I said if you've got an item on the top and you've got one on the bottom, they will cancel, so it's just going to be 8n. It's going to be left over. So the answer to that one is 8n. The answer to that one was 8. I didn't write it in before. So those are all our answers. Number 4, 4n over 16n, 4n over 16n. So n's are going to cancel. Now 4 into 16 goes 4. Now what you've got to do is you've got to write a 1 up the top, because 4 went into 4 once and into 16 4 times. So you're left with a 1 up the top and a 4 down the bottom, so it's 1/4. Okay, let's just have a look at that very quickly again. Let's write this out. We've got 4n over 16n. 4n over 16. So the n's are going to go into each other and you're going to be left with nothing from the n's. It's going to be 1 times 1. And then 4 goes into 16 4 times. But you can't have, that's actually a 1 up the top, because you've gone 4 into 4 is once and 4 into 16 is 4 times. So you've got a 1 up the top and a 4 down the bottom, so that equals 1/4. So the answer here is 1/4. And number 5 again is a fraction. So 6 into 18 is 3, so you're going to have a 3 up the top. Okay. Now x into x squared. Now when you've got x squared, you've got x, 2 x's, x squared equals x times x over an x. So one of those is going to cancel with one of those, so x into x squared leaves you with just an x up the top, so it's going to be 3x being your final answer. Have a look at this a couple of times if you need to. Now this is still going to be the same, just a little bit more complex. 2 into 8, negative 8 is negative 4. I'm going to be left with negative 4, and 2's gone from the bottom completely. Now you've got 2 x's up the top, so you've got an x, and you've got x to the power of 4 on the bottom, so you've got x, 2, 3, 4. That's what x to the 4 means, x times x times x times x. X squared is x times x. So 1 up the top is going to cancel with 1 on the bottom, 1 up the top is going to cancel with 1 on the bottom. You're going to be left with x squared down the bottom. Okay, so all of the x squareds go from the top, and you're left with 2 on the bottom. That is the takeaway rule for indices actually. So you've got x squared down the bottom, and then the same thing is going to happen with the y squared. I'll do it over here. Y squared over y is you've got 2 y's up the top, you've got 1 y down the bottom. So the 1 y cancels with 1 y, so that cancels with that and leaves you just with a y. It's negative 4y on x squared. Negative 4y on x squared is your final answer. So 6p times 3 divided by 9p. So I'm going to do it just using BIMDAS, and BIMDAS is going to be left to right. So I can do the 6p times 3, which is 18p, and then that's divided by 9p, so I can go divided by 9p. Alright, as in write it as a fraction. So p into p cancels the p's. 9 into 18 is 2, you just have with 2 as a final answer. So that answer up there is going to be 2. Okay, let's do the, on here, when it's multiplied up the top, we can cancel across. So we can say 4 into 8 is 2, and then 2 into 2 cancels completely. And then the s down there cancels with the s, and we're just left with that 1t up there, so the answer to that equals t. Number 9, I wrote it as a fraction again. 3 goes into 27, 9 times. You're going to have 9 up the top, and a is going to cancel with 1a, it's going to be a, and b is untouched, so it's 9 a, b is your final answer for number 9. Okay, so I've written this as a fraction again with the multiply at the top and the divide down the bottom. Like I said before, when you've got a multiplication, only when you've got multiplication up the top there, you can actually cancel across both terms. So the 2 goes into 10 5 times. 1m there, and you've got 1m there, cancel them off. And the 2p's is going to cancel with 2 there, and you just p to the power of 1. Now you've got, so you're going to have 5p times 5m squared p. So we've got to simplify that. So it's going to equal 25, 5 5's numbers by numbers is 25, m squared p squared. The m squared is still there, it hasn't got anything that's going to change its power, but p times p gave us p squared. So that's going to be the answer to number 10. Hopefully you got most of them right.